Welcome, everybody. Today we are joined by somebody who you probably recognize. This is Gerald, the #1 Catholic men's fitness coach. Is that right, Joe?
That is right. That is right.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I've been looking forward to this, man.
Thank you for having me, man. I think it's gonna be a really good talk. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be great. I think a lot of people would really benefit from hearing your story because you are a convert, right? You didn't grow up Catholic.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. 3 years ago. Oh, going on four now. It was April of 2021 on Easter. I got
Yeah.
baptized, confirmed, first communion.
So you got baptized. So you went from like no religion growing up. Is that right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. So
raised by the
I grew
television?
exactly. So it was probably pretty typical, like modern American story, which was we were told, like, you can figure out right from wrong. You're smart, and I think I had a very typical, like, liberal upbringing, you would say.
Mhm.
Went to public school, went to typical high school, and then I went to college, joined a fraternity, did typical fraternity stuff. It was kind of right around then, 19, 20, 21. You start to realize, like, a lot of those things bring you guilt in the
Yeah.
mornings, or just like drinking too much, or, trying extracurricular things. And you realize, yeah, you feel a lot of guilt. It was right around that time I started thinking about, like, deeper things.
Yeah.
And from there, it's a big jump from there to Catholicism. That's kind of where it started, I would say, is the college life.
Yeah, that college life gets a lot of people. I see so many people go into college and there's this kind of U-turn that they make. They start off going just completely the wrong direction and they realize this is bad. And then they flip around 180. That's not exactly what happened to me, but that's similar to what happened to me and similar that what happens to a lot of guys, I think. So your story is the story of thousands of other people, I think.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot. Our culture's so just immersed in hedonism and just indulging in yourself. And it was right around then when I started thinking, like, maybe watching, these websites aren't good. I didn't know anything
Yeah.
about morality or anything, because if you don't think about it, you're not immersed in it, you don't know. But I started, like, for example, I found Dennis Prager. Do you know Dennis Prager, the
Yes. Yeah.
PragerU?
Yeah. Yeah.
First time like breaking into that. And I'm like, what is this? I think he wrote a Genesis commentary, and that was the first time I read the Bible, and or at least a book of the Bible, and just like starting to ask these questions. And I graduated thinking more and more about it, just not knowing anything about a particular religion, but just asking those deeper questions.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in Luke's gospel, Jesus says, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do," right? And he has pity upon those who are like sheep without a shepherd. And so it's just beautiful to see people whenever they're just introduced to the faith or at least some
Mhm.
form of morality for the first time. If there's anything good in them, they just start to devour it. Is that kind of what happened to
Yeah.
you? Is you just were drawn to this truth that you never knew existed?
Yeah, I think so. It took time, though, for sure,
Yeah.
because after I graduated, uh, you, d- if you don't have a guide, it's tough.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a guide, and so I was binging, like, Tony Robbins books, Dave Ramsey, Dennis Prager, and then
Yeah.
I found, like, Protestant teachers. I found Bishop Barron. It's just all of it
Yeah.
kind of
So
pointed me towards the right direction.
yeah, all those guys that you mentioned, a lot of them have some really, really, really good things to say. But what was it kind of that made you go, okay, Catholicism is different. Catholicism is something that I really should investigate. Because, if you're talking
Yeah,
Bishop Barron alongside some Protestant pastor, alongside Tony Robbins, is like what made the Catholic Church stand out to you?
yeah. I had a friend who was Catholic, and he was a very good Catholic. He, he's kind of like you. He had a passion for theology and apologetics, which can be handy for someone who's, like, pretty reasonable. I think of myself as a pretty logical guy. Like, I did engineering before this, so
Oh,
I'd ask
nice.
these really particular questions, and apologetics, very logical responses, and that worked for me. Um, and he would just hang out with me. We became best friends. And when you know nothing about truth, or very little, and then you talk to someone who knows a lot about truth, but also is kind of good at the apologetics, and yeah, just as a good friend, yeah, it's convincing.
Yeah. Yeah, that friendship aspect is huge. Having somebody to walk with you step by step and answer your questions. A lot of people don't have that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think that was what did it. I don't know if apologetics, like the arguments, technically convinced me. it's satisfying, but it's more so the friendships. You see people and you emotionally are like, I want to be more like these people.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
getting baptized as an adult, I mean, I was baptized as a baby. I have absolutely zero recollection of it. I'm told
Yeah.
it happened. But
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
baptized as an adult, what was that experience like for you? Was it super emotional? Was it something that just blew your mind, or was it just not something that you actually felt very much?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I felt anything in the moment, but it was like a big deal. Like I planned for that for a long time. My parents were there. No one in my family was religious, but they were all there, which is interesting. Um, I bet one of my closest friends was my sponsor, and it was cool to have him there. He's a seminarian now, but it's just like you plan for this for so long, and then it happens, and you're like, "Wow, I really did it."
Yeah.
One of my best friends was the priest who did
Oh,
the
really?
like
Is that the friend
sacraments.
that told you the apologetics too, or is that a different friend?
No, different friend, but one of my closer friends was the priest, and he did the sacraments, which was cool.
So you grew up with no religion, but one of your best friends was a priest? How does that happen?
Yeah, well, funny enough, through that friend, we're not as close now. I moved, but at the time we were really close,
Yeah.
and that friend who I was really good friends with introduced me to the priest one day. He's like, I think you'd like to get to know this guy. And it was the first time I met a priest. We got coffee, and I was expecting like a 50-year-old guy, um, crotchety, old, wrinkly. But no, he's like our age, and he's like used to play football. And we just hit it off really well and shifted my whole perception of what priesthood is. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
really
think
cool.
that seeing young priests that are like our age, in shape, energetic guys, it's so invigorating. And that's just, I think, a representation of what's happening to the church as a whole right now. I know with your line of work, you're working with a lot of young men too. Same for
Yeah.
me. But I just see a brand new renewal. I see the Spirit really moving in young men to bring them closer to the church. And I see so many young men in seminary. My younger brother is one of them. And it's beautiful to see.
Yeah. It plays such a big role too when if you practice what you preach, that tells you a lot about what you truly believe. So it means you take it seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you're going from engineering degree in college. You
Yeah.
are raised secular. You have
Yeah.
this friend that introduces you to the faith. You're interested. You end up getting baptized, right?
Yes.
Throughout all of that, what would you say was your biggest holdup? Like, yeah, I like the Catholic Church, but this.
Um, I don't know if I had many, man. I kind of jumped in. Maybe there's parts of the faith that are difficult to
Yeah.
wrap full belief around, like exorcisms or papal infallibility, maybe. Like those can be more difficult parts of the faith. I think just from like a reasonableness standpoint, it can be a little bit tougher, but I don't think there was ever anything I was against. I kind of jumped in really early on. I had a lot of qualms, like, gay marriage. Like, why don't you just let gay people get married? Just saying stuff like that. Then you learn, and then it all kind of makes sense. So,
Wow. So you were a pretty easy conversion then. You meet one cool priest and you're cooked.
right? Yeah, I'm cooked, dude. They got me. They
Oh
locked
man.
in.
So then how did you, I gotta know, because that's fascinating to me. How did you go from engineering then to now Catholic, and then you start the Catholic fitness, or how does that come
Yeah.
about? It seems like
So,
you're going point
yeah,
A, point B, and then you skip over to G or something.
dude, there's even a J and an F in there too. I actually got a scholarship to go to law school after engineering school, so I did that.
Whoa.
So I was becoming a patent lawyer,
So
which is a
you got
lawyer.
the brains and the brawn then, right?
Yeah. You just got to keep showing up to class. They'll let you graduate. So. Yeah.
Oh.
So, did that. I was Catholic by now. I went to law school. I went to Marquette Law School, private Jesuit school. One night they hosted a Pride night, like LGBT stuff, and it's a private Catholic school, Jesuits. And I'm thinking, like, this is my first experience with Jesuits. This is not, not to say they're not, you know what I mean? But first experience, they're hosting this. Marquette hosted Pride night. And so I'm sitting there like, what am I doing with my life? Lawyers are already super fake. Like, I didn't have any genuine friends there. And then they're doing this like LGBT stuff under the guise of a Catholic school. It's private, right? And I just kind of just broke. Like, I was like, this ain't it. I can't do this. I got to be honest. I kind of went to engineering school to make my dad happy. And then I went to law school to make my mom happy. I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to do self-development stuff with like Catholic men. That's what I want to do. So dropped out and started posting on Instagram.
So you had no background in it. You had no money that you were planning on making immediately. You just started posting on Instagram, hoping people would come up and, you know, be interested in what you're doing. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you're crazy. I love it. I love that.
Yeah. I had done fitness shows, so I like knew fitness, like fitness comp, like Men's Physique, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
But I did shows like that. So I knew fitness. And I was like, why don't I help people that are like me? So I just did. In the beginning, it was tough, let me tell you, because I spent all my money on law school.
Yeah.
Because private law school is $30,000 a year. So I put all my money into my first year of law school, didn't get a Juris Doctorate, dropped out, and then had no money. But that kind of, I always tell guys, like, burn the boats, take it really seriously, go all in, because it forces you to produce results.
That is so true. When you got your back against a wall, you fight harder. That's just the way that it is.
Yep.
I love that. Okay. So you started doing that. You had a background in fitness. Were you ever a bodybuilder? Did you do shows?
I did Men's Physique. I never did Men's Bodybuilding, which is the step above.
What's the difference?
Men's Physique is usually leaner, focused more on looks and aesthetics, whereas Men's Bodybuilding would be strictly size.
Yeah.
I'm 6'5", and so to be...
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't know that. It's so hard to tell how tall people are on camera. Sometimes I meet influencers. I'm like, oh, you're kind of small, or you're kind of huge.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
man.
To be men's bodybuilding, I'd need to be like probably 260, 270, and that's so much. I'm 220. I really like how I look now. 270 would be just, it's a lot on the heart, so I didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, going to coaching young men, what do you say is probably the biggest common struggle with young men that come to you? Is it just weight, or trying to put on muscle, or confidence, or what is it?
No, most of the fitness. So I've done about 500 consultations now, so I get it. I got my finger on the pulse of Catholic men. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
They have a lot of problems, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I think there's a couple types of like the struggling Catholic man, because a 22-year-old Catholic guy coming up is very different than like a 40-year-old Catholic man who's already got kids running around. So it's different. I'll start with the like husbands, family men. They put so much towards their families. They almost feel a sense of guilt, a sense of like, I can't take time away to focus on themselves. But what they need to remember is that's like your job, is to lead by example.
Yeah.
And so like the kids, there's that famous quote where it's like, or it's a poem. It's like, no written word or spoken plea can teach our youth what they should be, nor all the books on all the shelves. It's what the teachers are themselves. With the idea being like, you want your kids not to be fat. Well, then you don't tell them, you just don't be fat yourself. You just be fit for yourself. That's the best way to teach them. So that's the main problem with the husbands and fathers. Maybe the step before is kind of a lack of vision for the men that are like early 20s. And you probably heard me talk about this idea where a lot of them end up like falling down the rabbit hole of Catholicism, I call it, and kind of making Catholicism their whole personality, instead of dealing with some very real problems like a lack of income, a lack of a woman to date. They don't want to address the discernment situation or commit to seminary or the novitiate. So it's just like they end up just binging, no offense, apologetics content, and then they make it their whole personality. I see that a lot too.
That's fascinating.
A lot of rad trads, but not just rad trads, and not all rad trads, but you kind of know what I mean, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely a portion of the population that struggles with that. Yeah. A lot of the guys that I work with, we're dealing with very different audiences in some respects, I think, but a lot of the guys that I work with are guys that come from a background of maybe they're a recent convert and they don't know the faith very well, or maybe they grew up Catholic, but really just going to mass on Sundays and not at a parish that was super stellar. So I work with a lot of guys that are like that. And I give them not the opposite advice, obviously, right? Like I'm trying to exemplify the virtues and teach them the virtues. So they have that example before them. But a lot of the guys, I'm like, dude, you got to read some of the catechism.
Totally. Yeah. Maybe we can talk about this. It's kind of like a nuanced thing. And
yes,
you might have really good
insight. Perfect
insight
though, because I feel like we're addressing the same issue, or maybe two opposite extremes, and we can meet in the middle, certainly.
Yeah. So here's my thing. Like, we got to be better better catechized. I mean, I feel like I know more than most Catholics, which shouldn't be the case because I'm like a convert and it's not my thing. Like theology is not my thing, but I know so much more than the average Catholic, which is a problem.
Yeah.
But then there's the problem of, I think Aquinas talked about this, like studiosity versus curiosity. Studiosity is the study of things that align with your vocation. So like theologian, I would call you that. I don't know if that's the right term, but
Not a very good one, but that's
Okay.
gracious. Thank you.
so like you studying theology, that checks out. That makes sense. But then there's curiosity, which is studying things for the sake of just simply enjoying knowledge because it's satisfying or like wanting to sound smart. And I think a lot of young Catholic guys are overly curious and do it with the theology content because we have to remember God's not calling us to read Lumen Gentium. Very few of us are called to read the Vatican II documents or something. Most of us know enough. We have to just do the work.
Mhm.
So catechesis, but not like too far, I would say. Not to where it's like an obsession. What do you
I
think?
like how you brought up that distinction between studiousness or studiosity and curiosity, right? Because there's certainly a middle ground there, and you have to know what you need to know in order to fulfill your vocation in life, right? So if you're reading, Lumen Gentium instead of doing your 9-to-5 job that provides for your family right now, there's certainly something wrong with that. The thing that I would add, maybe it's just a little nuance here, is you know who Joseph Pieper is?
No.
Pieper is a German philosopher from the 20th century. He has a famous book called Leisure, the Basis of Culture. But his entire thesis in that book is, so the word leisure comes from the Latin word legere, which means freedom, right? It's the same root word as liberal, right? So a liberal education is a free education. And the thesis of that book is basically that people work so that they might have leisure. They might have recreation, right? Recreation. And he says the highest form of recreation or leisure is contemplation, which is separate from the study of theology, but intimately connected to it, right? So absolutely, if you are studying theology or watching my content on YouTube to the degree that it is harming your ability to do your job, harming your ability to accomplish those things that God has set out for you, that's not good. Stop it. Get off this channel and go do something that matters, right? But at the same time, the highest human activity is contemplation, which I would say is intimately related to, although distinct from, the study of theology. What would you say to that?
I would say I agree. I would say most men aren't there yet. Okay. So for example, 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, including the Catholics. 75 to 80% are overweight, 40% are obese. 12% have more than 10,000 in their savings. Like most men aren't cutting it. And that doesn't when I get on a call with a guy and he knows everything there is to know about Trent, but he is broke and he wants a trad wife. It's like there's a huge disconnect here, man. Like to provide for a family in America with wife and kids, you're gonna need like 4, 5, 6, 7K a month, and you're working minimum wage. Like let's just step back for a sec, pray every day, but let's kind of put Ascension Presents videos down for a second, and let's fix the really real issues in your life, which is that you're broke and you can't talk to women. Let's fix that. That's how I feel. Most men, not most, but like a lot of men are in that position from my consultations. Might be different for your audience.
Yeah, no, that's really, really well said. I think whenever you're looking at that too, the virtue of fortitude, I think, is what most of the men that you're probably talking about lack to a certain extent, right? It gets scary to go out and talk to a girl that you don't know for the first time, and maybe you're not very good at it yet, and so you kind of know that you're going to fall flat on your face, or you haven't practiced these skills yet, and so you're nervous, you're sweating bullets, right? Or it's kind of nerve-wracking to quit the job that you have to pursue another one, or to try to learn a new skill that you can monetize that you don't have any ability with yet. Like you're gonna suck at first, and there's that period of you have to be okay with being really bad at things in order to get really good at them, right? G.K. Chesterton has that quote. He says, if a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing badly. And so I think that's beautiful, but it's comfortable for a lot of guys to just go from their minimum wage job or whatever they're doing, go home, sit on the couch and watch an hour and a half of apologetics videos, right? Like that's comfortable. That requires no courage. That requires no gumption, no grit. And so, I absolutely agree. Men have to be men. And in order to be a man, you got to take some risks. You have to.
like you, like it was probably risky to start your own, like it sounds like like what the service is like teaching the faith. Is that fair to say?
So the service, yeah, what I do specifically with the coaching is for young men who want to know how to embody the virtues of a Catholic husband and father, but have been
I like it.
raised
Yeah.
by a, pornographic culture and have been raised
Dude.
by, you get
Yeah.
the idea. People just have no idea what it even means to be a Catholic husband and father. So it's
Yeah.
specifically for people that want to be ready to enter into matrimony. It does deal more with the spiritual and more with the, just the dispositions that you have to have. Whereas yours sounds super concrete, practical, like do this, have this diet, do this workout routine, and it works,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And yours is like, that is in line with somebody's vocation. That would be studious stuff for them to study. Like, that's good. I simply try to stay in my lane. Like, I don't talk on theology because it's not my game. And so nobody wants to. Theology already is like very easy to get yourself in trouble with it if you don't know enough. I feel that. I don't know if you feel that. Like, you probably have to study a ton. And there's no way I'm having like these profound insights on Catholic theology. So I just stay in my lane. And most problems I solve with guys are they don't know how to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not everything, but you want to provide for a family. Let me show you how that works. They can't find a woman or they can't get in shape. So it's very practical. And then I have priests in the community on staff that like help with the spiritual stuff, but I try to stay like very, not material, but you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And learning how to make money is not a sin. Like
No.
poverty is, Jesus says, blessed are the poor. He wasn't specifically talking to every single husband and father in America, right? Like if you're going to have a wife and kids and you want to provide a home for your wife and kids that's stable and secure in a place where the virtues can flourish, you're going to need some cash for that, especially because America right now, the housing market, I think you're in the process of moving or something like that too, but the housing market right now is ridiculous. I don't think it's ever been more costly to live in a first world, or at least in America.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because to me, that's like, I just solve problems. That's what I want to do. So it's like, okay, you want to provide for a wife and children, and you want a home, 50K down payment, 40, whatever it is. Like, let's do the numbers. You make this much. We got to make more. So, yeah, that I feel like is what they need help with more so than and again, this isn't your clients, but you'll notice the content on the internet where it's just like, here's 3 things you didn't know about Vatican II. And it has, 20 million views. And it's like, they don't need that. Our great grandmas 100 years ago didn't know anything and they were holy. Like they were just praying the rosary and loving Jesus and they went to heaven because all grandmas go to heaven. But I do not like the idea that the more knowledge someone has on Catholic theology, the more holy they are. There's a balance, like with everything, I think.
Yeah. Teresa of Avila talks about that in one of her books. She laments the fact that there was this meeting of priests and bishops and religious, and they were trying to solve some problem with the church. I don't remember exactly what it was, but she was there for part of it, and she lamented the fact that there were all these incredibly educated people who didn't love Jesus. They were just so well educated. They knew all the stuff, all the fathers, all the quotes, all the Bible verses, but they had no idea who Jesus actually was in their hearts. And it's like, you have to certainly avoid that, right? If your study doesn't lend itself to a greater devotion to our Lord, then you're studying incorrectly.
Preach. I like that.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's kind of what I see in the Catholic communities. Also, I don't know if you want to talk on this, but I feel like when I joined the church, I jumped in with both feet and I definitely went to what I would call like the rad trad. So like TLM, judging people if they received on the hand,
Right.
hating Pope Francis, all this stuff. And I got to be honest, back then, that was probably when I liked myself the least. I was very much like Catholic was me, not like Joe is Catholic, but like Catholicism is my whole personality. As I've kind of self-developed, grown, matured a little bit, I've kind of grown out of that. And I think there's a lot of guys that were like me. And so I try to help that too.
Yeah, there's certainly a I think this is what happens, because my story is somewhat similar. There's a lot of parallels, but you go from not really knowing the faith at all to seeing the faith and seeing it as beautiful and good. And then you see all these people that are taking this thing that you just discovered that's new and awesome and powerful, and they're not doing it right, in your opinion. They're not doing it the way that you want. They're not honoring
Right.
everything the way that you, and you just get so frustrated because you have these new eyes and you can see things, and you're like, why isn't everybody else seeing this? And then you just get angry, frustrated, and you start to belittle others. There's certainly a tendency towards that. And, I think that hopefully as people continue in their faith and realize charity and realize that maybe 6 months ago, you didn't know this either, right?
Right.
Or maybe
Exactly.
6 months ago, you were worse than all those people that you're judging. And so it's just, it's a, it's a zeal, but it's not an informed zeal for a lot of people as they're new converts.
So true. Yep. You kind of went through that phase, you think?
To an extent, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I ever, I do attend the traditional Latin Mass to this day on every Sunday. On weekdays, we go to the Novus Ordo a lot of the times. But I prefer the traditional Latin Mass. I do think, not judging anybody, the church permits it, not telling anybody what to do. But I do think that receiving the Lord, the Eucharistic Lord, kneeling on the tongue is a better way to do it. I think that not having altar girls is just a better way to do it. The church permits it. You can do what you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I still have those tendencies. But I've just matured in a certain sense where I am okay with other people disagreeing with me. Like you can do what you want. You can lead your family if you're a husband and father. You can lead your family the way that you want. This is the way that I deem best for the salvation of my soul and my children's soul. And what you do is entirely between you and God, right? Like it's not my job to judge you. If you have questions about why I do these things, I am more than happy to answer, right? These are things I've had to wrestle with myself. But yeah, that's kind of where I am at this point.
Dude, I think we're on the same page. I actually prefer the TLM. I don't think there's one around, but I'll still go if there's one around. My thing is, I actually think receiving on the tongue is a much better way for sure. I don't judge anymore though. I think that's where I grew. Like I used to look at people and be like, dude, what's he doing? Are you serious? And it's like, that's not the right mentality to have. So I think that's where I've grown. But yeah, I agree. TLM is beautiful. I would still go if there was one around for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's good. You got to remember there's probably thousands and thousands and, maybe millions, probably at least, of people who go to the Novus Ordo Mass that are much holier than me. So it's like, yeah, it's working.
Yeah. I mean, they're both permitted. See, that's the thing. There's like an element of maturity as you grow in not judging. I think that's a big hole that Catholic men can fall into, probably Catholic women too, but I work with Catholic men, is the judging of like, oh, they're not like me. They must be wrong. They must not be holy. You even see it with like really traditional guys will be critical of like older priests that are more liberal. And it's like not even considering that they were ordained in the 70s, which is like super liberal, as their formation's probably totally different.
Yeah.
Like the judgment is it's probably never the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not judging. And I also think really staying in your lane in a certain sense. I get lots of DMs, people messaging me, asking me questions about the faith. Sometimes they're polite. Sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're very nice. Sometimes they're not. I'm sure you get some similar stuff. But I don't, like, even in my videos, I don't try to convert people anymore. Whenever people ask me questions, I don't try to convince them. I just present the answers to them and then usually tell them to, if they're open to it, pray a rosary or pray to the Blessed Virgin Mary and ask her. Like my whole goal with all of my apologetics and everything is to get myself out of the way and just let Christ speak through me as much as possible and help people to remove the obstacles that are between them and ultimately the truth, right? So it's really like, if you disagree with me, great. Like I don't care. It is impossible for you to offend me. I think I might have tweeted that the other day, but I've received, hundreds of comments, DMs, all that stuff, right? Tweets, everything. Some of them not very nice, but one of the graces I think God has given me is I've never been emotionally compromised by any of that. Like it just hits me like water on a rock. I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny. I like a lot of tweets that are disparaging to me because sometimes they make me chuckle. My younger brother, who's in seminary now, has a very direct sense of humor, and he'll just he'll give it to you, right? So I just pretend it's my little brother tweeting at me, hit like, and then keep moving. But yeah, you got to stay in your own lane, and don't let the opinions of other people throw you off of your purpose.
Totally. Yeah. It's a hard world out there. You gotta speak your mind. I
That'd
will
be
say
tough,
that's one
man.
thing. That's one thing I would want Catholic men to do a little more, is take some more risk. They don't seem to have a sense of urgency, a sense of passion very often, and I want that. I want that fire.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what men are starving for, right? Is that
Yeah.
purpose. They want something worth dying for, but they're afraid to get off their couch.
Yeah. Be not afraid is written like 365 times in the Bible. It's like, you can't have both. You can't be like, dude, if there was a crusade, like, I'd sign up. And then also be like, what? I can't quit my job, dude. They have 80-20 healthcare. It's like, pick one, dude. Be not afraid or be afraid.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is a crusade, right? Like spiritual warfare
Totally.
is not just a nice metaphor. It's actually something going on. I saw this meme the other day where this guy was walking down the street and he had his hood over his eyes and he had his hands in his pockets, and they had painted in angels and demons battling for his soul all around him. And then the caption was something like, be thankful for the things you're not aware of, or something like that. I don't remember what it was. But the point is like St. Paul in the inspired scriptures says our warfare is not against, earthly, fleshly powers, but it's against angels, right? It's against fallen angels. And that spiritual warfare aspect is something that we all need to really up our game on a lot of the time. Because a lot of guys just don't pray, right? Like, I don't know if you encounter that too, or if you have guys that are, 6 hours on their knees every day, but a lot of guys just don't pray. And that's why they don't feel direction and purpose, is because they're not connecting themselves to our Lord, who's the source of all purpose.
Yeah. They'll say things like, well, I don't know what God wants me to do. I'm like, have you ever asked him? You ever thought about it? You ever sat and like, I don't know, go to adoration for an hour, think about what you're meant to do. Have you done that? It's like, no. It's like, okay, well, let's actually bring it to God and see. Because as you probably know, you have your thing, like your purpose, like the theology and helping guys become catechized and become better husbands. That gets you up in the morning, I bet.
Yeah.
If you don't have anything like that and you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, it's really hard to be a good leader. And like, every man is called to leadership somehow, fatherhood somehow. So yeah, that's number one thing when you join my program. I'm like, what's your vision? What are we meant to do? If you don't know, let's figure that out.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit more about that. So how does that work? If I were going to sign up and be like, hey, I want to take you on as a coach.
Yeah.
What would you walk me through? How would that work?
Yeah. So we do all your fitness stuff, custom meal planning, custom programming, all that, which is, you'll probably find that stuff in similar fitness coaches. Obviously my meal plans are better, but you also get assigned a Catholic priest to talk to make sure you're growing. I don't do that stuff because like we said, stay in my lane. Don't be coming to me with theology questions. But he's there. So you kind of get like a spiritual coach. But then we do weekly calls where I want to figure out, like, especially if you're a husband, like, what are you doing with your time? Do we have even a plan? And if we don't, we got to figure that out. What are you doing with your labor? We get it either, some people are more visual. And so I have them make like a picture collage of what they want or what they're striving towards. Some people are more written. So they write down their vision and their goals. But I need some type of North Star so we can figure out where we need to set some goals. And then we're checking in every week. I'm like, and you find it's not really fitness that's the problem. It's more so like everything's connected. They're probably missing a lot of things.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, I think that a lot of guys don't end up becoming great because they can't answer the question, what do you want?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, for anyone listening, there's a few questions you can always ask yourself. Like, how would you spend your time if you only had 6 months to live? It's a good one. So for me, I would probably still do coaching. I really enjoy it. That's how I know I'm kind of doing something that I like. Another one could be like, if you had all the money in the world, how would you spend your time? That can tell you a lot. Ask these questions, take it to prayer. Because when you get that thing that like gets you excited, like I'm sure Cameron gets like hyped up to talk about theology. God wants that. Like he wants you to like your labor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well said. I think the way that you find purpose in life is by using the gifts that God has given you in the service of your fellow man. Like that's it. That's if you want purpose in your life, figure out what gifts God has given you. That could be talents, like maybe you're good at teaching, maybe you're good at public speaking, maybe you're good at playing the guitar. It could be resources. Maybe you have a really awesome house and somebody needs a place to stay, right? It could be a 1,000 different things, your money, your time. But what do you have? What has God given to you? And then how can you give it away to benefit your fellow man? If you figure out those two things, boom, your life just explodes with purpose, right?
Yep. Yeah. And the crazy thing is, man, what I found is people actually know more than they think. They don't want to let themselves kind of go there.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what you thought about at night when you were younger and you look up at the ceiling, like, what did you dream about? What do you think about all the time? What do you think about? What do you talk about Saturday night with the boys? Like, what gets you excited? You probably would talk about theology, even if it didn't make you money.
Oh, yeah.
And that's such a sign that, like, this guy's doing good work because, like, he likes it. And, like, we benefit from it because that means someone, it's not some guy who's like, oh, I hate my job, I got to talk theology. It's like, you actually love it. We get a lot out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful too, because whenever you start using your gifts, right? The word, this is a cool insight, but the word diligent comes from the Latin word deligere. I think that's right. But anyway, it means to love, right? So the things that you are diligent about are the things that you love, because whenever you're doing something that you enjoy, like let's say, I don't know, Slash is playing just a really cool guitar solo. Like he loves playing the guitar. It's what he is born to do. He was made to do it. He loves it. Because he loves it, he naturally focuses on it more, and his ability to excel in that area is greater than anybody else's, right? So if you can figure out those things that you love and then start devoting time to those, you're naturally going to become more skilled than anybody else in that area. Right?
Exactly. That's very well said. Yep. It's the passion that pushes you past the other people that actually leads to the success. So you don't get burned out. You love it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I love that. Yeah. So talk to me about fitness here for a second. So if let's say I'm about, let me think, 210. No, 205. I don't know. It's been Lent and I haven't weighed myself, so I might have shrunk a little bit, but let's say 205. What if I wanted to lose 10 pounds and maintain strength? What would be the diet plan for me? Give me a diet plan for that.
You gotta pay for that, baby.
I love it.
How tall are you?
6'3", 6'2".
6'3", 6'2", and you're 210
ish. Probably. Yeah, I'd have to weigh myself. I think 208 was the last time.
Okay. You want to lose 10 pounds?
Yeah, get a little leaner. Summer shred.
Yeah. Well, there's actually this thing that a lot of people do. It's a very general concept in fitness. I feel like it's the most important concept in fitness, which is something called your total daily energy expenditure. Your body's like an engine. It burns a certain amount of calories every day. And the most fundamental rule in fitness is that if you eat more calories than the engine burns that day, you will gain weight no matter what. And if you eat less calories than your engine burned that day, you will lose weight no matter what. So all you really have to do, is figure out your TDEE, which you can just Google, TDEE calculator, type in your numbers, and then you'll spit out a certain amount of calories. Those are the amount of calories you probably burn in a day. If you want to lose weight, subtract 500 from that and just eat that many calories every day, and you'll lose weight, a pound a week.
500 pound a week, yeah.
Yeah, so if, let's say, for someone your size, you probably your TDEE is probably like 2,900. So if you ate 2,900 calories, you'll stay at 210 forever. If you eat 2,400 calories, you'll lose about a pound a week.
Okay, that's good to know. That's super useful. Yeah, what I use is and this is just an estimate. Your way is probably much more specific, but I take my target weight times about 10, and then just try to eat that many calories a day until I get there. So if I wanted to be 190, right? Yeah, I would take it times about 10. Not 10. 100, right? It would be 190. No, it is 10. Yeah, 10. 190 times 10 would be 1,900. And so I just eat about 2,000 calories a day, and then, much less specific, but it gets the job done.
Yeah. So that technically, it will work. If you do it the way the first way, you'll lose less muscle. We don't want to lose too much, because if you eat too little calories, you lose fat and muscle, and then we get skinny mini. But we want to be lean. So that would be my tip.
So how do you avoid, because do you do a lot of block fasting? Like,
No,
24
I don't.
hours, 48 hours, no food or
No,
no?
I do something called eat like a Catholic. So we fast
Okay.
on the days we got to fast and stuff. But other than that, most of our faith, man, is like joyful feasting. And so I teach guys how to eat during, like, you go to a feast, you're not gonna be like, oh, I can't have any carbs. It's like, that's not how we do things. So I don't take any food groups out. I don't do any fasting unless you want to do it for spiritual reasons or for the obligated days of fasting. But apart from that, like, I don't restrict food groups. You eat 4 meals a day. I just teach you how to do it in a healthy way. That rhymed.
4 meals a day. I
Yeah.
do intermittent fasting personally. I just do black coffee until like 3 in the afternoon. I've been doing that for years. That's just my habit. I like it that way. 4 meals a day feels like a lot. That'd be eating like a king. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's because the more meals you eat, like the faster the engine will rev. And we want a fast engine, a fast metabolism, because then it's hard to get fat. It's hard to put on excess fat. So I always have their engine. I want their engines running fast, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. I like that. I like that. Cool, man. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wrap up here in just a second. I want to ask for my own curiosity.
Yeah.
What's your max bench?
Oh, I hit 365 last
Let's
year.
go.
Yeah. What's
One
yours?
rep max 365. The most I've ever done is 365 for a one
Oh,
rep
wow.
max.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, man.
I don't
That's
know if
big
it was
boy
one.
weight. That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if it was one rep. I think it was a couple, if I'm being honest. I've never done a
Okay.
full one rep max.
Nice.
But 365 is good, Cameron. Were you
Yeah.
210?
Ish. Yeah, ballpark.
Yeah.
My weight usually fluctuates between 190 at the absolute lowest. Like at the end of Lent, I get down to like 190.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, maybe 220 at the most. Like after Christmas break, I've been eating Christmas cookies all Christmas. That's about my weight fluctuation. But I was around between 200 and 210 probably.
Yeah, that's good. That's solid.
Yeah. That's cool,
Sweet.
man. What about deadlift? You deadlift? You're a tall guy. I don't know if you deadlift.
So we didn't get to this. Story for another time. I fractured my L3 vertebrae about 2 years ago.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a big
So
deal.
do you not deadlift at all then now, or have you
Can't.
rehabbed it? You can't?
I can. I can do about a plate.
Okay.
And
What do you do
after
for
that-
back then? Like pull-ups, bend over rows kind of thing? or-
Exactly. I can't even do bend over rows. So I can do
Wow.
machine rows, pull-ups. Yeah, I got to be careful.
How'd you fracture it?
Car accident.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, it was really rough. But I can walk. That was the scary part. Is like I actually used a cane for a long time, a couple weeks, which was crazy because I was like 20, 25 using a cane. But yeah, it's good now. I just can't put heavy weight on my lumbar.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Story for another
All right.
time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I love that. Joe, thank you so much for coming on. A lot of
course.
young guys watch my channel. If they're interested in getting with you for fitness coaching, for anything like that, where should they check you out at?
Yeah, you check me out on Instagram, at @JoeGerald_. You can just shoot me a message, Holy, HOLY, if you're interested in learning more about the fitness stuff. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yeah. All right. If you are looking to put on some muscle and get in really good shape before the end of Lent, go check that out now. Go over to Joe Gerald's Instagram. Joe, thank you once again for coming on. God bless you.
Thanks so much, Cameron. God bless.